going to show you today is how to make the baseline jamu, and then I'm going to be using my juicer, and then I'll show you how to modify it to make it even more fun with sparkling water and maybe a little bit of alcohol, especially going into spring. And so it's going to be like a healthy cocktail. I'm also going to use some bitter. So let's have some fun with it together. All right, so how many of you have heard of Jamu before? Jamu. And introduce yourself, tell us who you are before I get going with the recipe. So the first thing is, as I'm going to be juicing, I'm going to then tell you about the juicer that I'm using, and that's Omega. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is, as you can see here, I got fresh turmeric that I'm holding right up here. I'm not going to peel it just because it's organic turmeric. If it's organic, it's pretty safe to assume that not too nasty of a pesticide was used. It's the same thing for ginger. That's going to be the second ingredient. Is going to be ginger. I'm not going to use as much ginger. Hi, Candace from Oregon. And then you have a choice of either using lemons or limes. It doesn't matter which one. And that's all you need for baseline jamu. And then we're going to do some modifications. I'm going to show you how to have some fun with it as well. All right, so let me get going with the juicing, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the juicer itself. Can you guys, has any one of you, it might be making a little bit of noise, so hopefully not too much to interfere with the video. Well, let me know if it's interfering with the video. It's a little bit, might be a little bit loud. So the juicer that I'm using, I'm wondering how many of you are using this kind of juicer, not the centrifugal one, the one that just spins around, makes a lot of noise, and heats up the fruits, so much so that it can interfere with the enzymes in the fruit or roots. And so what I really love is what I'm using, this kind of juicer here, is called the masticating juicer, right? So it's masticating the same way when you're chewing things up, you're masticating. Hi, Lily from California. We've got some people from Colorado. Awesome. So how many of you here are using a centrifugal versus a masticating juicer? One of the other things that I love about masticating juicers is not only does it not destroy the enzymes in the fruit, but also, or the vegetable that you're juicing, but it also, what it does is it's super easy to clean it up. I mean, you literally just, take out the big screw inside, rinse it out, and you don't have all these filters to scrub. And I feel like when something is easy to use, that's what guarantees you some kind of a continuity and consistency of actually making things. This one is a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna break it. There we go. Centrifugal, I guess. That's what Candace is using. Yeah, so, Christmas is coming. Whenever it's your birthday, hint to your husband, to your partner, to your family. I'm ready for a new juicer if juicing is important to you. I certainly use it a lot during summer and spring, not so much during winter. It's just because it's kind of too cold for me. All right, so look at the color. Isn't it just absolutely beautiful? One of the things that happened over Easter, my friends made me responsible for cocktails over at the Easter party. So that's exactly what I did. Was I juiced turmeric and ginger. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm using a little bit of ginger. Now the reason why I'm not going to use too much ginger is only because ginger is pretty intense. But what's amazing about it too is that ginger, for those of you who know that I'm going through an herbal school right now, ginger actually also is an emmenagogue, which means that it can bring blood to your uterus. So for women, for example, who have irregular periods, or you don't have a period, or it's like you're going through perimenopause and it's all over the place, well, what happened then is that you can actually bring in ginger to bring blood into supply to your uterus, and then it helps with regularity of periods. And not to mention, it's a huge digestive aid. It's also a very warming herb. So for those of you who are going through, that constant feeling cold with because of Hashimoto's or low thyroid function, right? Then ginger is just a wonderful way to bring the temperature up back in the body. So let me show you the next thing I'm gonna do. If you look at a little bit of a close-up, I just chopped up some lime. I'm using lime because that's more of a traditional recipe. In Asia, lemons don't grow. It's a Mediterranean fruit, right? So limes are more of the go-to, but you can very easily. Hi, Laura from Austin. Jesus, thank you. I have all those hormonal issues. Yeah, well, you know, it's a lot of it. The good news is that we can change a lot of that quite easily, and that's what really my life mission is. Carrie says, I look fabulous today. Thank you. I don't particularly feel fabulous. If you are on my mailing list, I did write about it, that I had a UTI yesterday I woke up with. And not surprising, my immune system has been kind of suppressed in the past a couple of weeks. We are in the final stages of launching our new program called Estrogen Reset. I'll tell you about this in a second. And so it's just really taken, I think, a lot more out of me than usual. Also, I will admit I've been drinking coffee, and there has been like a few days of alcohol. And so I think all of that combined with stress and the inflammation. So that's part of the reason, for selfish reason, I'm making Jamu here today, so that I can benefit from that as well. And hopefully that would inspire you as well. So let me continue with our juicing. Now, the reason why you don't see me peel that lime is because half of that lime I'm gonna use still with the peel on. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the skin of a lime contains a substance called D-limonene. And for those of you who have my cookbook, or you've done our online cooking programs, I'm a big fan of using the peel as much as possible, because it is a huge liver detoxifier. One of the pathways in the liver, the glucosination pathway, uses D-limonene to bind up a lot of the different toxins. So pretty awesome substance. That's why don't throw it away. The only thing is that you do want to use organic limes and lemons if you're using the peel. You can also use orange or grapefruit. So now the reason why I'm only gonna juice half of that lime with the skin on is because the peel is pretty intense, and after a while it kind of becomes really bitter. So we're not gonna, you know, we want to make it healthy, but we also want to make it tasty. All right, let me pop that in. Okay, it's just a little bit of that, and the rest, what I'm gonna do, I've got another lime here, and I think we're pretty much done with juicing. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna juice it into our final. Oh, fuck. Well, I'm checking with Jean if you guys can still hear me, because I'm not sure if the connection is back on. One of those internet days. We have a major dump of snow. I don't know whether that plays a role in... Okay. Okay, so I'm back on. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. It's technology as you know it. All right. So this is your baseline. Now, the way you can drink your jamu, first of all, like I like to make it just a whole big bunch of it and then put it in a refrigerator, and then have a little bit every day. So one way you can serve this is just like a shot of tequila. All right, let's do it. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna say it's delicious. It's pungent. It's potent, it's highly medicinal, and it makes you feel so healthy just doing this. So I want to show you some modifications of Jamu that I think could be quite fun, especially if you go into a party, if you are having some friends over, you want to impress them a little bit. I think this could be a really fun thing to do. So let's see. In case you guys have a question, because this is a typical question we get, what if you can't find fresh turmeric? And I have found that it's actually pretty common now, like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, and I have seen it at Natural Grocers, which is more of a Midwest grocery store chain. They sell organic turmeric, so it's pretty awesome. Go and check it out, see if they have it. Typically, they'll have it right next to ginger. If you can't find it, then the way to do this is that you basically mix up, it's about 1 teaspoon, I'll use 1 teaspoon of turmeric to about 3 ounces of water, okay? So in a cup, you might want to end up using a tablespoon and a half of turmeric. Just go with your taste. You can't really go wrong with this. There's no, the beautiful thing about a recipe like this, there's no right or wrong, really. You know, you can't screw it up. You know, nothing is going to happen. All right. So let's just say Oh, actually, before I make the fun drink, I also want to show you something else. Who here knows what is tamarind? Have you ever used tamarind? Have you ever tried it? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna do a zoom in on my hands. So turmeric, sorry, it's not turmeric, it's tamarind. Tamarind is this long bean, and then when you pull the paste out, that's exactly what it looks like, right? So it's this brown, pretty unattractive paste, but it's an incredibly vitamin C rich fruit, and it's very sour as well. And one of the traditional ways of, you know, everybody has their own jamu, and for some people, it means that adding tamarind into their jamu as well. That's an option. So that's something you can stir in. Very high in vitamin C, awesome addition. If you have, let's say, lemongrass in where you live, that's another thing you could do. Is just be careful with your juicer, because lemongrass does get stuck in the mechanism inside, in the screw. All right, so let's do the fun parts of creating like a little bit more, if you will, family-friendly drink, because not everybody is gonna be wanting to pop this. The first thing you want to do is you want to add a little bit of sweetener to it. So I'm using here amber coconut nectar. That's one of my favorite kind of sweeteners because it is highly unprocessed. It's got very low amount of fructose, so basically you're not using your liver to process that sugar. And it also is fairly low in glycemic index, so it's not gonna jack up your blood sugar levels too quickly. So that's pretty awesome. If for whatever reason you don't want to be doing sugar, I completely respect that, and that's completely fine. You can also use things like, if you like stevia, just add a couple of drops of stevia. I personally don't like stevia. Monk fruit is another option. If you have my cookbook, I do talk about it. Jean, if we could post the link to our cookbook on Amazon for those of you who haven't seen the book yet. So I'm gonna use like maybe a tablespoon of this coconut nectar. And the next thing we want to do is just pour our jamu in. And here I'm using like probably 2.5 shots of jamu. It's gonna lose its color, if you will, a little bit, because it's, because of the sweetener, it suddenly becomes kind of brownish, right? So not the most attractive thing, but we're gonna even this out in a second with some of the things I want to show you. So the sweetener is here, awesome. The next thing we do is we're gonna put some ice. Although we had a big dump of snow here in Colorado, so I don't particularly feel like ice, but let's just assume that this is like where you are, just as you got actual spring going on. All right, and then I'm adding sparkling water. So this becomes, just such an incredibly refreshing, beautiful drink, healthy. Gets everybody going in conversations, going like, what is that, carrot juice? And you're like, no, turmeric. And then people go like, oh, I think I've heard of turmeric. That's supposed to be really healthy for you. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. Oh, I can't tell you. So good. So good. If you having a party, the other thing you could do is add a little bit of alcohol to it, right? So whether it's vodka, whether it's rum, gin goes really well with this. And last thing I'm gonna just talk about, which could be jazzing up your drink here a little bit more, can you guys guess what this is, what I'm holding here in my hand? So you might recognize this from a show that I did together with my friend Summerbach on bitters. So these are wonderful bitters. And this drink, isn't very bitter. So there is no harm in adding a little bit of bitterness to it, and then it becomes a real amazing digestive for you and your family. So I'm just gonna do a couple of squirts. And the bitters that I'm using here is from Herb Farm, one of my favorite companies when it comes to herbs. Herb Farm, you can easily get that from pretty much any health store out there, including Whole Foods. And the one that I'm using here is called Bittersweet. The reason why it's called Bittersweet is because there is a slight sense of bitterness to it, and the sweetness comes from an orange peel. So you know how important that is. Like why I love these. I love things like the peel, and so they use the peel itself in making the tincture. You got the sweetness, You got the freshness, you got the ginger, it gets your digestion going. I feel like I'm already salivating, I'm ready for lunch. You know, just a beautiful, beautiful drink. So who here is gonna be making it? I'm wondering how many of you have actually seen turmeric in your store. I'm curious about that. The only thing I don't particularly like about using powder is the fact that it does have a little bit of a pasty aftertaste, right? So what you might need to do is blend it with some water and then strain it, so just get rid of the particles, because otherwise it's kind of a bit of a funky texture. All right, I'm gonna go over to Jean. Could you post what are the questions that we have coming in or comments? Because as I'm doing things live, I can't really see all that much. Facebook is who struggle with estrogen dominance, and estrogen dominance, will manifest in the form of a whole variety of different symptoms, including endometriosis, fibroids, lumpy boobs, fibrocystic breasts, but also breast cancer. Most thyroid cancers are actually estrogenic. Lung cancer in women, of course, ovaries and uterine cancers are all fueled by the bad estrogens, if you will. It's not the estrogen in total, but it's the bad estrogens that are the culprits. And so we are very passionate about releasing the program. But like I was saying earlier, it's been 6 months in the making, probably a little bit more on my part, because I've been working on the content for a little bit more than that. And I'll just be honest with you, I'm pretty tired. So this is the kind of drink that is definitely gonna be very nourishing for today. So Candace is saying, I've seen turmeric written in grocery store Safeway in Springfield in Oregon. Awesome. Priscilla is saying, I have fibroids. Yeah. So Priscilla, what we're going to be doing is, I hope you check it out when we launch the program. It's going to give you, we're going to launch it in a way, it's going to give you a preview of the program every day. It's like 24 hours. You have access to different modules, and then you can decide from there if you want to invest in the program. We're going to make it super inexpensive. It's going to be literally $197, and if you decide to go in within the first, I think, 3 days, we're gonna give you a $50 discount. So basically it's $147 investment. You can't do better than that. And so I'm just doing it because I don't want the price to be ever an excuse for someone not to do it, when you can help yourself and address all these different things that I talked about, all the symptoms, which can be so life debilitating for so many women. But worse still is the kind of stuff that when you don't address it, I feel like it's one of those, if you don't nib it in the butt early enough, that it just continues being present with those, and it leads to finally something like, breast cancer. And so I just absolutely hate when I get those emails from women who say, we met 10 years ago, I met you in New York, and I had all these lumpy boobs, I didn't want to do your program at that time. At that time I was doing coaching, and and then they send me emails saying that they are diagnosed with stuff. So we don't want to get that kind of emails. All right, so let me see. Can go over to Skype and see what we have. Yvette is saying, hi from Houston. I had no idea about ginger affecting the blood, affecting blood to the uterus. Awesome, that we know. It's called emanagogue. That's the quality that we describe in herbalism. Yola is saying, I love ginger, turmeric, honey, and lemon. There you go. So that's a great point. Thank you. So you don't have to use the coconut nectar. You can also use just straight up honey. The reason why I didn't is because honey doesn't get dissolved very easily in the liquid unless you unless it's warm. And so just for the purpose of the show, I just wanted something that will dissolve really quickly. Gail is saying, I've been looking for masticating juicer. Please post the link for of yours, please. So I don't know what model I'm using, but if you go to Amazon, maybe Jean, if we can post an Amazon link to one of the juicers, there's a whole variety of them. I think you're gonna do a little bit of research to kind of figure out which one is best for you. This is a new one. I've had another one from the same brand, Omega, and I used it for over 10 years. And the only reason I got rid of it is because the screw inside kind of got yucky, but discolored. It just got discolored. And I thought, maybe it's time for a new one. Teresa is saying, how can we watch this from the start? Yeah, so Teresa, the minute I hang up this call, then you're gonna be, give it like a few minutes to process the video, then you can watch it then. Lake Carrie saying, we're 30 degrees here, and we're going to try this today. It will cool us right down. Also 30 degrees, I'm assuming that's Celsius and not Fahrenheit. But you know what? The thing is that if you are having 30 degrees Fahrenheit where you are, which is 0 degrees in Celsius, then it's cold. then what you're gonna be doing is definitely you can do still this. You can do jamu, but just do it as a straight shot up, and it's gonna warm you up because of the ginger. So I want to show you just on before we wrap up. This is how I'm gonna store my jamu. I didn't have a smaller bottle, so I'm just gonna do this, and that's pretty much it. And this keeps in the fridge, I would say, for up to a week. I wouldn't want to keep it longer than that. All right, everyone, I hope you will try jamu, and wishing you a wonderful weekend. Do some self-care stuff. I always talk about it, and I feel like I have not been doing that myself in the past few months, and so this weekend is going to be one of the first weekends when we actually going to be, my whole team and I will just decided we're going to do doing some self-care to really, not to come down with any UTIs, because it's just no fun. All right, everyone, have a lovely weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.